Hello, creative people! It's Sherry with Dragon Wagon Studio. Thank you for joining me today on my channel. In this episode, I am going to be showing you a proper way to paint on your resin. So I made these two molds in another video, and now it is time to add some color to these because I just don't want them as one solid color. I mean, that's a dragon claw. Let's make that really cool. So my plan is to add some paint on there, and I'm going to show you a couple techniques on how to properly adhere acrylic paint to resin so it stays and it doesn't scratch and flake off. And I will be going over those tips and tricks with you in this video, where I'll basically show you some crucial steps to make sure that your paint doesn't peel off, how to protect it, how to properly adhere it to the resin, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's get painting, my little dudes. So I have two different types of molds I used. One is a high gloss, one is matte. So I'm going to use two different techniques. I'm going to start off with the matte, because I'm still kind of contemplating on some things on this one. This one I am going to be using some primer. This is not Tri-Berry Jam, it's primer. I don't plan on painting all of it. I just really want to do the little mushrooms and some of these little details in here. So I have picked out some crafting paint for this one. I have deco art and folk art in these colors. So I got a burnt umber so I can do some shadows on the tree. And then I'm gonna be, oh, actually I had another color in here. Yes, daffodil yellow. Pure pumpkin, and this one's Christmas green, and this one's just a cardinal red. So I'm gonna paint with those colors and kind of mix them in between and get some little highlights and pop these little details out. And that is my plan for that. When painting on resin, acrylic paint is your best option because you're painting on plastic. Resin is plastic. Acrylic paint, when it dries, it pretty much dries into a plastic. So that is why you want to use acrylic paint. You don't really want to use watercolor. That's going to be ineffective. It's not even going to stick. You don't want to be using oils because they take a long time to dry and they're not going to stick as great either. Unless you have a primer coat, then you could probably get away with it, but it's just best to stick with acrylic paints. Crafting paint here is going to be your best option. Also, it's very inexpensive. Folk art is a little more expensive than the deco art. Deco art you find at the dollar store. It's very, very cheap paint. And I'm an advocate for not using cheap paints. But in this application, this is most effective because you just want a crafting paint. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need to go out and run out and buy Daniel Smith or Winsor Newton for this application. That's too much money and a little insane. I'm going to prime up where I want to use some of these details. I'm also going to be using a trick. So I'm going to use some crappy ones for my primer, just because it can be a pain in the ass to get it out of your brushes. First off, primer. I just have a little bit in a jar because I don't need to be dipping out of a giant bucket, so a smaller container for this application. Another thing you can do is you can mix your primer right into your paint. You only need about maybe under 20%. You don't need a lot, and it will do the same thing, and you can skip that primer step. But there's a catch. And the catch with that is it will lighten your colors. It's going to act the same as adding white to your paint. So be careful with that. So if you add white primer into red, what's going to happen? You're going to get pink. Just keep that in mind if you pre-mix your primer in. And with acrylic painting on plastic or resin, if you don't use a primer, you're going to be doing layers and layers and layers to get that opaqueness. Primer is going to save you a lot of time in the long run. So you're just going to get really streaky layers with lots of brush strokes, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. All right, so we'll just let that dry. It's already starting. Some of it's already pretty dry. Don't worry about the streaks. You're going to cover that with acrylic paint. It's just to get your paint to stick. So we'll set that aside for now. And that is step number one, primer first. I want to try a little test sample because this one I'm going to use Gesso as my primer. This one I want a lot of translucence. I really like how the green looks. It's very shiny. The mica powder is really coming through. I just want to add some light color. And for my primer, I want to use this clear gesso. The problem with gesso is matte, and this is not. And to keep the kind of iridescent look, I'm going to try and mix in my iridescent medium by Liquitex. And then I'll mix that into my colors. I want to see if this is going to work, but I'm just going to test a small part on the bottom before I go and lay that in, and then I can't get it off. So I'm just going to try and make something up here, basically. A little gesso, a little iridescence. Well, probably a lot more iridescence. A lot. Even though I'm doing a test, we're just going to, you know, I'm just assuming this is going to work, so. Let's see how it looks by itself. Oh yeah, nice. That's very nice. You can see the iridescence in it with gesso, so that should be okay. Let's wipe that off for now. See what it looks like with a little color. I'm going to use this yellow in there, so we'll try that. I'm going to use a little bit of yellow and some purple. Purple is a contrasting color to yellow, so you want to try and use a contrasting color. The contrasting color for green is red, and I don't want to use that. Not really a fan of green and red. Just too Christmassy for me. Too Christmassy. Plus, this is a dragon. We're not talking about holidays here. I think that'll be okay. I think that'll work. I'm gonna let that dry. Let's let that dry and see what happens. So I'll set him aside because I'm not painting him right now. Back to our little mushrooms. I'm just gonna go in and paint this. But first, I'm gonna show you how to mix your primer in with your paint. So I was planning on lightening this and making it more into a cream. I might have to add a little orange, we'll see. I'm gonna put a little bit of primer in there. So this is another step you can use and just mix your primer right in, and then you don't have to pre-paint. It'll do the exact same thing. You still might need to add a second coat just to get out the streaks, but we'll see what it looks like. Oh, I kind of want that creamier, still a little yellow. Add a little tiny touch of orange, just like so tiny. There we go. Let's tone that down a little bit. Let's tone that down, there we go. It's a little more creamier. For the mushroom, I'm going to paint my mushrooms like the fly agaric mushroom, which is the most toxic mushroom out there, but is your atypical looking mushroom that's used in a lot of references. It is the red mushroom with the white dots, and that is what I'm going to do on here because it'll just go nice with the brown, and yeah, that's my yellow so far. All right, I'm gonna let those dry and take a break. Okay, there is our little stump with the mushrooms all painted up. So that is done. There will be a coating to protect the paint afterwards. After it's all dry, it's still kind of wet and might still add a couple touch-ups. But for the most part, I like how the moss is coming out. Stippling brushes are awesome. So that's how I got that texture. Yeah, anyway. This guy. Another technique to use when you are painting your resin projects is to sand the surface first. So in this one, I'm going to be using that iridescent medium and the gesso. So no primer in this one. But with that, I am going to do a little bit of light sanding because it is so smooth. You want to have a little bit of grit so the paint can get embedded in that texture. So it's not so easy just to go and flick it off. So that is what we're going to do with that. I'll grab a little piece of sandpaper. I got a little piece of 600 grit sandpaper. So you don't want to use anything like a 150 or anything like that. That's a little too abrasive. You just need a little bit of a light scuff. That's a little more of a tedious aspect of things. But I'm not putting a lot of color on this one, so it's not going to be that bad. I'm just going to do a little light scuff on the claws because I know I'm painting those. And then I'll do some fins and the snake. And I am planning on doing all these rock texture down here, but just a little bit of shading. So you see how we lost all that dullness or the shininess. Now it's nice and dull. And that's just all you need. Like, I'm barely applying any pressure, just very light. You don't want to end up gouging your resin. You got a nice, beautiful, smooth texture. Your mold worked out so nice. So we don't want to compromise the structural magnificence that we have going on here. And like I said with this one, I am not going to be painting it all. I'm just going to be doing a little bit of color highlights. I want to keep the iridescent look. I just want to add a little more depth with a little bit of color. If I'm going to be painting this whole skull, I'd definitely be using some primer, because I'm not going to get in here with sandpaper unless I get a Dremel and get all technical, and nobody wants to do that. So now that we have created some dust, we're going to have to clean this off. Get all our dust particles off. So I'm going to be using some yellow, which will go with the green. So I'm going to use some yellow on the claws, on this fin here. And then I'm going to use a contrasting color. And yellow's contrasting color is purple. So if you look at a color wheel, opposite of your color you're using is the contrasting color. And green is red, blue-green is red-orange, so on and so forth. These are really great to have. If you don't have one, you should. You can really print these off online. They're everywhere. You don't have to physically have one, but I've had this thing for over 20 years, so great tool. Anyway, so I'm going to use this color. And this is the purple I picked out, called Purple Cow. I love some of these color names and people come up with, they're great. I also have this Dragonfly glaze. I think I might try my hand at that over top. I'm not sure. It's a top coat and it's supposed to be a different color spectrum. I thought that worked really cool with this. So I might end up putting some hints of this maybe on the snake or something, or little skulls, and see if it does anything cool. So yellow and some of this. So I want that iridescent look, and we need the primer in the gesso. Just to recap, this is the clear gesso by Montmartre and the iridescent medium by Liquitex that I mixed together in there. And now I'm just going to mix some color in it. And I'll show you the difference between the flat and the iridescent here in a minute. Painting nails. What if I just should have used nail polish? Ha ha ha. Ha ha. You know, that probably would work also. It's acrylic. It's acrylic paint. Yeah, this is going to be streaky because it is smooth. So we'll have to do a couple coats for sure. For sure. All right, I like that streaky look. Really gives off that hair effect. Misting water on your acrylic paints prevents them from drying out on you if you're not using an acrylic medium. This is why this hasn't dried yet, is because I have an acrylic medium in it, which also extends the work time you have with your paints. So all this other stuff dried out, but the one with the acrylic medium in it did not. So just to give you an idea on how much more work time you have, because I took a break for like 20 minutes and came down here to finish that mushroom. Acrylic is all water-based paint. I'm not even going to use all this purple. Another thing I don't like about using crafting paint, I waste so much of it. You can also make your own iridescent medium by using any medium and just adding a mica powder into it. Another little tip for you guys. Let's get my little snaky snake without touching the back of this. Want to paint these skulls or not? I don't. I'm going to do the rocks. So let's get some tiny drop of black, white. Not too dark. Great. Iridescent. Gesso. You know, I should put some green in there. Put a green undertone. So we're painting on green, so I'm going to throw in a green undertone. There we go. That's a little better. That's better. That's better. I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I want to do that. I'm losing so much of this pretty green. Oh well. Can always make another one. Alright, let's let this dry. Alright, creative people, it is time to do a clear coat. I got my little dude all painted, so that's a tree stump with all them little mushrooms. So I'll need to put a clear coat on that. And here is the dragon claw all painted up, so I have to put a clear coat on that. And this one I'm going to do a spray, hence why I have my lovely toque on. In Canada, we get our toques at the liquor store, so I don't even drink, I just go there toque shopping. Anyway, this one I'm going to be using an acrylic gloss, so I have three examples you can use. This one by Adler is a clear painting medium and a glazing So you can use this as a medium or a clear coat. So that's one option. So this one will be a paint on. And then I have Gesso Clear Glaze Medium and a light surface sealer. So this is another option that you can use as a medium or a top coat for acrylics. And then I also have polyurethane. Now this you can use also, but there are some rules with polyurethane and resin. In this application, because everything is dry, it's perfectly okay, and it will stick to resin with a little bit of sand. So just make sure you do your research on polyurethane before your resin applications, because it is an oil-based product. There are a couple of rules. For my Dragon Claw, this guy here, I'm going to be doing a spray. So I have Varathane Crystal Clear spray. This is garbage. I'm showing you this, don't use it. This is not a nice finish spray at all, so don't buy that. Pyrlon as a clear coat. This is really good to use. It's really nice. It sprays on nice as long as you're, spraying far away. You don't want to be spraying up close. You're going to get globs. So this is a really good option and very easily accessible. The one I'm going to be using is an acrylic varnish. This one is the Cadillac of your clear coat gloss sprays. This was a gift, so I can't remember where you can get it, but I will do some Googling and put the link in the description on where you can purchase this stuff. It's amazing. These two are going to go together. I'm probably going to use the Gesso with my little mushroom stump. So I will show you how to do that. But first, I'm going to go outside and spray my Dragon Claw, and then I will be back and paint this one. Spray painting. Okay, I will be back. I got the other one drying outside, got that all sprayed. So now we're gonna do a clear coat over our little mushrooms. So we have a couple options. We got the Gesso Clear Glaze Medium Light Surface Sealer, which I'm gonna use because it's not a high gloss. This resin mold is matte, so we'll stick with the matte. Like I mentioned earlier, we got the Adler Clear Painting Medium. You can also use this for glazing. So this is a more high gloss. We'll skip that one. Also, if you have matte and you want to do a clear coat, use Gesso. Gesso is matte, so you can get clear in Gesso. You don't have to get white. It's around. And you can also use that. Gesso is really, really cool stuff and is undermined quite a bit. So that's another option. So I'm just going to use Gesso. I'm just going to go over all my mushrooms where I painted. It's not going to give me a high gloss finish. I'll keep it pretty matte along with my resin mold here. And I'm just giving you guys this option as another way you can seal your paints. So I'm just going to go and paint over everywhere that I painted and seal that in. It's going to dry nice and fast. Once I get this all done, we will critique these and see what we think. All right, creative people, it is time to see how we did. But first, do me a favor and hit that like, subscribe, and share button for me. I'm trying to get my content out there as a small-time creator, and I appreciate everyone that hits that button. Thank you so much. You can also buy me a coffee on my website at dragonwagonstudio.ca if you'd like to help support me and my mission. Thank you so much. So here we go. Here is our first one, and it is our little tree stump we did with the mushrooms. I found a little fake plant to put in there, and it came out really nice. I'm quite happy with it. See, we did not lose any of that matte. That gloss is pretty matched up evenly with our resin. And it just came out so cute. So, that is my little mushroom dude. Alright, and now here is the Dragon Claw. So this is supposed to be a tea light holder, but the tea lights don't actually quite fit in there. So that's what I ended up doing with the fins. I just highlighted some orange in there to get some of that depth. There's my little snake we did. Just some contrasting colors with the green. I did end up using that glaze for the skulls, so I don't know if I can grab that very well. Really hard to tell, but you can kind of see a little bit of shimmer. A little bit. There's some sparkles here you can see from that stuff, so it didn't really do much for the color changing aspect, but whatever. So yeah, that is what it's supposed to do, but it just doesn't quite fit. So now I'm just going to use it as a ring holder. Thank you so much for watching. Stay creative, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.